What is the difference between a controlling man and a leader? What is the difference between a
Ooh.
controlling man and a leader?
Mm.
All right.
Dun,
Okay.
dun.
Uh, okay, Christine, you want to go first on this one?
No.
Okay. Crystal, what about you?
I will say, to me, this is just my first thought off the cuff. Is a controlling man in my mind is more like someone who I would define as a narcissist, and a leader is a man who is following, God's biblical principles in leading me, leading our family, and it goes to the word of being submissive where people have misconstrued that word. But definitely to me, controlling means someone who, if I'm looking to the left because I see a bird fly by, and my partner is like, uh, you know, what are you looking at over there? Accusing me of something that I'm not doing, which goes along to me like someone with a narcissistic personality.
Can you mind for just for the audience and for the panel, just defining what a narcissistic man is?
Man, there's so many definitions of it,
What's your
but
definition?
someone who is only about themselves, someone who lays blame for their actions upon everyone else,
Okay.
someone who is very controlling. There's so many other definitions, but those are I'll say those are my top three. I'm sure more
Okay.
people y'all could add more.
And Patty, what about for you? What's the difference in a controlling man and a man that leads the right way?
So a man that leads has a vision, and if it's a right, then they lead with love for not only the spouse but children if there's children involved, as opposed to someone who is controlling that ideal has absolutely nothing to do with love.
Okay. Okay. Christine, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's go.
Okay, so someone who's controlling is just barking out orders, do this, do that, do whatever. Someone who is a leader is leading by example. They have this is a clear path of what we should do, and they're leading by example, showing you this is how we should do it, not just barking out what you should do.
Got you. Got you. All right. Enos, what's the difference between a controlling man and a leader?
What's the difference between a controlling man and a leader? I guess for the traits or qualities, if you think about a leader, I start with a leader first. Leader, four things. I think Patty, I'm sorry, or Crystal, one of them said one of us being a visionary. That's one quality. Integrity, effective communication, uh, could take ability, and active listening, good listening. So those leaders tend to respect hierarchies, competent hierarchies, moral hierarchies. They esteem that. They seek to have reason and logic lead their everyday decisions, their actions. Versus a controlling man, the difference, a controlling man is more, they don't have the esteem or the same respect for those principles I just mentioned that a leader tends to submit to. That's what I would say. That's the difference.
All right, Derek, what about you? What you got?
I would say a controlling man is driven a little bit by insecurity and fear. They more demand obedience and demand situations, and there's really no voice that the woman has when she's dealing with a controlling man. Whereas a leader, like they said, has a vision for the family and can do those things in love and do it respectfully. If I could just give a very very quick example, let's say you have a woman who's by the world standards is very attractive, and a controlling man, if she wears something where she's showing herself, he could demand take that off. He could he could manipulate her and say all kinds of stuff to degrade her self-esteem, to do whatever to get what he wants. Whereas a leader could say, it's not that you can't be an individual. It's just that this is more modest. This, and then you just have a conversation about it and come to the conclusion. So yeah. So I think a man that leads loves, and a man that controls, he just demands. Do what I
The
say.
best, if I don't mind, is interject, because the controlling man, that's a good point you made, because controlling men tend to lead with intimidation and fear versus
Mhm.
a leader submit to are more attracted to the ideas. So if a woman is wearing a certain clothing that he doesn't approve of, he could communicate the idea why this is a bad reason for wearing this type of clothing, right?
Mhm.
I want to add to Crystal. She said a narcissistic man. A narcissistic man tends to have an inflated view of themselves, for one. And no, I'm gonna just stop there. Let me think about my answer with the now. I want to.
Yeah, I want to speak to that point. Yeah, everybody brought up really good points, and I would, if I were to just summarize how my view of it, is the difference between a controlling man and a man of leadership is man of leadership is in control, but he understands that that control rests in that which is above and beyond him, in God, and then also, as Enos mentioned, the hierarchies that are in place, meaning that he leads by principles. He's not leading by his. The scripture says that love does not insist upon its own way. So he's not leading based off his own way. He's not leading in favor of himself above and beyond his family. But he may do things that spite himself, because that's what leaders do, to make sure that the organism or that the family or whatever it is he's leading, that they get to reap the main benefits of what's going on. So I would say that a leader is going to lead based off principle, based off what's right, based off what's the best for everyone involved. Where a controlling man is, as Enos pointed out, insecurities, fear, narcissism, having an inflated view of yourself, wanting to control people's preferences and opinions based off his arbitrary ideas that he has in his mind, apart from God, apart from any type of leadership from Christ or a good counsel. So that's what I would say in a nutshell about the difference between a controlling man and a leading man. Anybody have any comments? Christine, Patty, Crystal, any thoughts on any of that?
I agree.
We've got some good comments over there on this subject.
All right, Enos, where we at on the comments?
I got you. Let me start off with
E. Marie. That's exactly how most of us are manipulated into that. That's you way up there, buddy. Come all the way down to the one right above that. Yeah, controlling man is not guided by God. A man who leads is guided by God, which is exactly what Vulcan was saying. All right, go to you. Then we got Heather M. says a controlling man is a manipulator, a gaslighter, and never take accountability, while a leader is respectful, considerate, humble, and will lead by example. Woo, don't you just hate a gaslighter? Goodness. Controlling man does not know how to navigate conflicts. A leader communicates clearly. That is modest Latina.
Well, I would say this real quick about that comment. I think we got to be very careful here. A lot of times when we incriminate a certain type of person, like a controlling man, we focus on he doesn't know how to do this. It's not an issue of his knowledge base. A man can be very knowledgeable on how to do a bunch of different things if he's a controlling man. It does. At the point of the matter, he goes against what is good in favor of what's going to benefit him. So it's not an issue of whether he knows or doesn't know how to do something. He could be utilizing those skills every day at his job, with his relationships with his family and friends, or maybe not. But, it's not about does he know how to do it, it's does he utilize the principles that he knows. Because even a great leader can struggle in those areas at times and needs to be informed, but a great leader is going to seek out people who know better than him, get the multitude of counsel, for guidance. He's going to read, he's going to study, he's going to get those skills in line because he knows that people that are counting on him. So, yeah, we got more comments, Enos?
At E. Marie. That couldn't be further from the truth. I'm sure there are plenty of atheists that are better leaders than Christian men. That's why you got to come on the show, E. Marie. You'd be able to come back on him.
Anybody want to address that comment right there? Well, I'll address it. So
I'll
he
address
mentioned.
it.
Okay,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, yeah, that there's some truth to that, because even when doing this show, the show is based on intellectual virtue, so that is a moral component in just conversing with each other. So an atheist can submit to virtues and have a great understanding of what it takes to be a leader. So versus certain professing Christians that are not absolutely committed or submitted to those principles. So I think there's some truth to that. I agree.
So real quickly, I'm gonna make 2 points about that comment. One is the fact that people who are atheistic in the Western world are typically culturally Christian.
Yeah.
The most famous atheist right now we have on earth is a guy named Richard Dawkins. He's an evolutionary biologist and a public speaker, and has written many books on atheism and a lot of books anti-religious, especially Christianity. And one thing he will say is that he's culturally Christian. What that means is that his value system, his moral beliefs are that from Judeo-Christian principles. So it is very possible that an atheist in the Western world, which is where most atheists are can be better leaders than some Christian people, because they are still in the same moral system as Christians, because it was Judeo-Christians who founded the Western world. So they have picked up that same morality. Just to give one quick example, you have anybody seen the movie 300 with Leonidas?
Sir.
You saw when the babies were deformed, what did they do with the babies? They tossed them off the side to plummet to their deletion. When Christianity and Judeo-Christian mindset came into play, it was the belief that all people have intrinsic value and worth because they're all made in the imago Dei, the image of God. And once that particular belief system took hold, everybody started to cherish all life. That's why you don't see people in the Western world getting rid of babies that are deformed or have certain illnesses, because they believe that even though that life may not be as healthy as you would like, they still have the same value and worth that a baby with no illnesses has. Another quick example would be, you see this when it comes to women's rights. You notice that women's rights are really only debated in the Western world. Why? Because in the Bible says that there's neither slave nor free, nor male nor female. So the Bible said that women and men were equal. Adam said, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. That was established, which was a very controversial concept in the Western world, that women and men are equal. That's why you notice that only in the Western world, women have the rights that they do. And only in the Western world, women are able to fight for more rights. You don't see that in the East. Women don't have the same rights over there. Again, because of the Christian work ethic. Sorry, the Christian ethic. The Christian ethic and morality that was established. So those are two examples right there of how you can see that in the Western world, the morality, as it infiltrated everybody in all different cultures, we all come to esteem the same things and people's value and worth, whether it's gender or any other kind of thing. So I would say that an atheist can do it, but what an atheist can't do, and this is what we're talking about here, is lead their family in the way that a Christian should lead their family, to honor God. That's the area where a Christian will outshine an atheist, because atheists don't have that spirit. They don't have that mindset. They borrow the Christian perspective to lead their family, and they can do that maybe better than some Christians could, but they can't lead their family in a godly way better than a Christian could. Anybody have anything on those points that I gave?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Okay, somebody said I'm moving. Y'all hearing some noise on my end?
No, I'll tell you later.
I got ADHD, everybody. Just y'all know I got ADHD.
You're moving around. You're moving around too much.
All I see is that hand going.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm not somebody strap me down. I'm not somebody strap me to the chair. All right. So, any we got any more comments, Enos?
Yeah, that's the last comment. 100. Maria said 100 to Derek. So
shout out to Derek.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think
the real Vulcan on the show, Derek. Let's get it. All right, Enos, next question.
Let's see what we got.
on this show.
This is the hottest show on the planet right now.
What's the debate? Ain't no debate.